Imho Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in this city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories, more people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all these things. Still, the way that black people, and I would say, and I would argue especially black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous, and you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. But this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do the work, critique the work, and make sure that we stay in line with the vision. Another way that the community can get behind the SIM project is through engagement. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're talking about. We want to put your stories out there. And so whether it's reading the articles written by Charlottesville Tomorrow or Vinegar Hill Magazine, or tuning in My Humble Opinion on Sundays on 101.3 Jams from noon to 3 p.m., Either way, we want you engaged. We want you to be part of this. The community can also support the SIM project through funding. To learn more about how to support SIM, you can visit our website. Thank you for your support.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that, and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in this city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories, more people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. IMHO Talk Show in the booth, in the building like we never left. Tell a friend, because y'all could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we taking the world to Seville and bringing Seville to the world. And I had to use all of those sayings. I had to use all of those analogies and what have you, because I'm just elated and I am excited because a brother to my left, whenever he sees me in public, you know, and this is our first special guest for today, he always hits me with one of those sayings that I do on the show, and we always have a good chuckle about it. But not only that, it's only powerhouse like this gentleman here that can bring out anything from the woodworks. Like my grandma used to say, look what the cat drug in. And look what the cat drug in. None other than Aaron showed up today to join. So it must be a special show. That's all I'm saying. It must be a special show.
Hey, it's been a long time. I should have left you.
You're right about that. But money talks and bull walks. It is what it is. But yeah, so delighted to have everybody with us today. And that special guest that we have with us today is none other than Mr. James Watson. James, thank you for joining us, man. Good to see you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me, Charles.
Yes, indeed, man. Anytime, you're welcome. You're welcome, man. And family, y'all know how we do. Let everybody know that we are streaming and broadcasting live right about now. So they can hit us up. Y'all can call the station if you want. 422-9101, or you can go online, comment, put your questions, as some of you already have. But we here for you. Like, how we do. Man, but there's so much going on. Razor is also in the building. What's up, bro?
Yeah, how you doing, baby?
Man, like we heavy on the brothers today, ain't we?
Yeah, it's Miss Max on the way though. Miss Max on the way. Okay. Hey, Ron, what's up, baby?
What's up, man? You look like you've been working on a truck or something.
Yeah, on a Mustang. I got a Mustang now.
What's up, fellas?
Yo,
that's right, man. But it's fitting that we have James Watson in the studio with us, man, because there's so much great work going on, and we're gonna get into that with this brother, because not only is he a highly esteemed professional, but he's also a highly esteemed mentor within the community. Mm-hmm. And so with the brothers here right now, and we just came off of a great Black Love event that the Black Professional Network put on in association with Chic and Classy Imaging and Vinegar Hill, partner of ours, Vinegar Hill Magazine.
A seat at the table.
Yep, a seat at the table was in the building. Made Events was there doing a 360 photo booth. A seat at the table was catering and bar service, if people don't know. Mm-hmm. We had the Bridge PAI. Shout out to all of y'all. Out of sight events with the decorations. Plenty vendors of quality, local, Black-owned merchandise. Was there, and we had a great panel. Young guy Cyril Greer, young king, young lady, local entrepreneur and therapist Jessica Harris. We had therapist Juanika Howard and minister Ken Edwards, and it was just a beautiful celebration of of our families, our community, and love in general. Since we in this Valentine's season,
and everybody was on time.
For the most part. No,
I'm just saying we always get flack because of our timing and everything, right? But the standards that we choose to judge our Black entrepreneurs on isn't always fair, right, right. And it is almost looked upon like, okay, our services are less than, but expected to be twice then.
Right. Give me the hookup.
Right. And it just, that bothers me about our people, because I know that thought process was indoctrinated in to make us feel like, less than. Mm-hmm. And it carries on. And so when it carries on in our community, it bothers me.
Yeah.
Because there's no grace.
I feel you.
So.
Yes, indeed, man. Very well said. And like I said, there's so many things that we could be shouting out, but y'all definitely, like I said, follow the BPNCville. Shouts out to Charlottesville Black Excellence. Like I said, Vinegar Hill Magazine, Discover Black Cville. The list goes on and on and on, but there's so many ways for us to be connected and for us to support each other. And again, in this Valentine's season, to show that love, man. And the Bob Marley biopic coming out on Valentine's this week. I'm going to see it. Who's going to see it? Y'all going to see it?
Sir,
I'm going to see.
I don't know if I'm seeing on Valentine's Day, but
be a nice date night. Be a nice date movie, man.
Nah, man, I know Bob, man. That ain't no date night, man. You know what I'm saying? I studied, but D. Monroe made sure I studied Bob Marley.
Hey, Razor, look, Bob was getting it in on Valentine's Day because that brother had like 530 children.
It was more than Valentine's Day.
Yeah. Bob also shot the sheriff. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God. My God. But speaking of which, Razor.
Yes, sir.
We also had on display last night the Men of Distinction.
Go ahead, man.
Now I know James saw that. Hey, Aaron, did you see that?
Go ahead, man.
The Men of Distinction
haven't seen it yet.
Photo. What do you want to call it? Like the photo shoot celebrating Black men in the community, Men of Distinction. For those that don't know, Aaron, who's been a color commentator, aka instead of just a colored commentator. Color commentator.
That's funny.
You know, he's not on as much anymore because the brother, you know, moved down south.
Changed,
You know what I mean? Apparently they got, you know, better oils down there.
Right. Yeah, better shea butter.
Yeah, it's better shea butter.
The shea butter is definitely shaying out here. The shea butter is shaying.
But you know, so that's why. But we're glad to have Aaron back. But like I was saying, Men of Distinction. For those who haven't heard about it, it's like a photo. It's a photo celebration, a photo collection, showing different men and different Black men, sort of in all their glory, you know, together, and just a celebration of it. And Kalila Jones always does great work. Yes. I know she was one of the folks that led that up. You know, so just to see these images to celebrate Black men, and it's called Men of Distinction. And I'm gonna let Reza, you know, give his input on it, or like, you know, like what it means to him, you know, what he feels like the representation is all about with Men of Distinction. Yeah. But I'm gonna say, Aaron, somebody said to me, they said, is that Troy? They said he up there looking like a skinny Rick Ross.
Without the money. Hey, what I will say about the event, you know, Kalila, Tori, the young gentleman with the 777 that you got on now,
Shad Gilliam.
Yeah, Shad.
Yeah.
They did a excellent, wonderful job when it came to the clothing, right? How they picked the people that they chose for the Men of Distinction, I have no idea, but I am honored to be one of them.
Absolutely.
And it was just, let me tell about the photo shoot before I tell about what it means to me. The photo shoot was a collection of African-American men. Some of us knew each other, some of us first time. But one thing that went together was, it was the feel of a barbershop when everything is like hitting on 100. Black men, y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. Everybody was in support of one another. Everybody was everybody's hype man.
Yeah,
everybody was,
love it.
Like, it was just, you know, the pictures are an indication of how the people around them were putting energy into the person taking the picture. Nothing was about you. Everything was about your brother. Right? When I was contacted and said, look, you've been chosen for one of the Men of Distinction, my first thing was, how? Why? You know what I'm saying?
Because the beard, man.
Right. Because I know my flaws. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So a lot of times when I do take pictures and I do photo shoots and I do things where people try to highlight me and say, look, hey, we're proud of you, right? And I see the pictures, and then they'll ask me like, well, why didn't you share the pictures, or why didn't you do anything? It's because the pictures I'm looking at is who I aspire to be. I don't see myself like that. And a lot of the men that were in that picture, you could tell they didn't quite see themselves as the image of what Kalila and them are saying, look, this is what you are to us, and we want to highlight you, right? But when we got together and you got a chance to, like, you know, you say, remember the old thing? I'm like, I want to be like you when I grow up. No, I'm just trying to hold your hand. Remember that type thing? That's how it was. You know what I'm saying? So being labeled a Men of Distinction is, it's an honor, but it also comes with great responsibility, because now the judgment, you know, I'm under whatever your Men of Distinction is, and how you see me is what I got to live up to. Whatever Charles' Men of Distinction is and how he sees it, that's how I have to live up to. So that responsibility is something that a lot of times we shy away from.
Yes, indeed.
Because we don't want to be judged, you know. But as I've went around the sun almost 50 times now, I understand, like, okay, dude, you want your flowers, so walk as people see you with these flowers so they can give them to you. So while you may want to tell somebody your mind, hey, would a Man of Distinction do this? So instead of looking at it like, what would Jesus do? What would a Man of Distinction do?
Like that, bro.
And that's how I carry myself.
Got you. Loving it. So y'all definitely be on the lookout for that, for the Men of Distinction photo collection. But Reza, but why you got the mic too, man? You know, I wanted, again, like I'm feeling the love. I'm feeling like you're saying, like we Men of Distinction right now.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
100%.
James, Ron, and you know, so you know, like the brothers are bringing so much energy, man. Like I wanted to shout out as well as that good work that you're doing over there with Collective Culture.
Thank you, man.
And y'all have a brunch coming up, right?
Yeah, we got a brunch coming up on the 17th. We're doing it down at Doche downtown. It's the second annual brunch that me and my business partner Jamel Hopkins Qualls Yeah, I'm sorry, Per. Yeah. Hoppers Coils are doing together. Come out, man. The venue's going to be beautiful. The music is going to be excellent. You know, the food is always going to be great because my business partner will not sacrifice one iota for the financial part. Everything goes into the food, and then and just come out and celebrate your people.
Yeah, for sure.
Charles, one thing I want to say about that, when I look at those men of distinction, instead of looking at those being the barometer by what a man of distinction is, I think each one of us come from our own group of people. Y'all are my group of people. So I am a representation of you. You know what I'm saying? Because they're going to pick somebody for the next year. So when they start, you know, choosing and picking, it's one of those things that an apple tree breeds apples. So we're going to look at it from the positive point. Like, okay, if he was chosen and this is part of my group, when we choose somebody else and it comes from somebody from my group for me and somebody else group for them, right? It's all tied in together. So we start giving our community people that you can, like James, mentors. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm not the mentor you want for your son, ask me, do I know one that fits your son's circumstances?
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? That's what a man of distinction is, right? Being able to pass on the torch to somebody that can truly give you that help.
That's what's up.
Charles, can I add something real quick?
Please do.
So when Razor was talking, the first thing that popped in my mind is this has to become common. And so the example I would give is that when people think about corporate America, or they think about a good old boy network, or they think about Congress and everything of that nature, typically the image of that is just a room full of white men, CEOs, corporate guys, or whatever. We as a community have to make this photo that we took, the reality is that is normal. The majority of black men, a huge majority of black men are working, taking care of their families, taking care of their ladies, their children, and things of that nature. And we cannot start to get clamped in with a small group of a population that doesn't represent us all. So we as a group have to make this more common to where, oh, black brothers doing their thing in suits, representing their families, that's what they do. But that starts from the community. We don't need validation from other people. That starts with us. So shout out to them brothers that did that photo shoot. Hey, Charles, you gotta play BMF now. This brother might have been whipping work. Hallelujah, man.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm clean. I ain't even gonna lie. Like I'm clean, cuz. Like it's a way that you don't normally see me. Let's say, for instance, if you could put clothes on my personality. That's who I am in the men of distinction photo.
Okay. Oh Lord, yeah. You know, one thing.
Oh yeah, hey, it's all that, cuz.
Yeah.
I even got a pocket watch on. When last time you see a brother with a nice pocket watch? Timepiece.
And you know, another beauty of it too, though, is like not everybody sees everything the same way. Like I'm speaking of our people. So then let's break that down to another micro level of black men. It's like all of our work habits aren't the same. Like, you know, like we all have ups and downs. A lot of times we don't share that, you know, with each other for pride reasons, whatever the case is. Like, so just to see us collectively together is powerful within itself. Because to me, it symbolizes the fact that, you know, man, it's like we ain't got to be on the same page about everything, but there's still power in unity. Like just to see that to me, you know, makes that impression.
My brother Martez Tolbert, right? Anybody knows Tez is not at no shortage for energy. When we finished, we were taking pictures all over the place, right? So we were getting ready to walk out. And as we were walking down the hallways, we were passing the fountain font and the light was coming through the window at a certain image. So it gave a shadow of you after your shadow. So then the lady photographer that we had started snapping pictures, man. When I tell you, Tez's energy changed the atmosphere, like hyping people up. Like you were waiting on your time to change, right? So then as the sun was setting, the beautiful thing that I took away from that was we were all standing in the same place, but not at the same time. And those pictures captured the time frame that you were in. So depending on the melanin of your skin, the sun highlighted that. Depending on the depiction of your eyes, the sun did all those things, right? Dude, it was just like,
it's amazing.
Oh my goodness. It was for everybody to be on the same team, so to speak, rooting for one another. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't even about you. It was about people rooting. As people were taking their pictures, we were hyping each other up, man. Telling each other how good you look, how proud you were. Like just, it was everything that I would want black men to be that I hadn't experienced before.
That's dope.
That's incredible.
Yep.
That is dope, man. Yeah. You know, and to kind of close out that conversation, man. We just want to make sure y'all remember to check out, and keep showing that love to everybody, man, because like your brunch with Culture Collective is going down at
Dolce.
At the Dolce downtown.
On the downtown. And this is the thing, Charles. I'm glad you said that, because I used to hear, because I'm not from here, that downtown wasn't for us.
Yeah, we got.
Well, Ronnie Megason has a spot down there that is for us.
Yeah.
Can you tell folks where it is?
It's right over top Boys and Men Shop. The doorway, right? The easiest way to say it, instead of me giving the address, because like black people, we say, look, go down by the tree, turn to the pink house, go by the right. That's how we describe things. So I'm gonna tell you,
we do have Google Maps now, my brother. Like we do.
We do. But I'm gonna touch back into who you really are as a person. Hey, Ron, go down 125th, turn on by the Apollo.
There you go.
So yeah, go to Boys and Men Shop. The doorway right beside you see Dolce. You see the
left
site. To the left
when you come in,
and go upside the stairs, and that's where the brunch will be at.
Nice. Yeah, so we want to shout out his spot, man. Also there's another new spot called Nostalgia, over off of Angus Road near the Best Buy. Like they have constant events, and I believe that's Ronnie's mom, if I'm not mistaken.
It is.
Oh, that spot. Yeah. And so so check that out, man. But we have the Soul Feast Business Expo coming up at our local school. I think they still taking vendors, particularly black businesses for Black History Month. Anybody want to go out there? And again, we're getting into the mentoring thing. Anyone wants to be present for the kids, show them that you're a black professional, black business owner, whatever the case is, man. What else we got? Our boy Lorenzo Dickerson is doing the screening of his documentary Raised over at the Jefferson next week.
Okay.
Y'all check that out, man. And we are partners. One of our great partners is with the UVA DEI, Dr. Kevin McDonald. And this Friday, he bringing Tasha Cobbs to town. Yeah.
And
that joint sold out quick.
Yeah.
Like
3 days.
No, first day. It was first day. It was like a matter of hours.
Okay.
But for those you can show up at the box office, and any tickets unaccounted for, they will be giving those away. So y'all really want to see it, so it is a chance that you are more than welcome to take.
Hey, Charles, can I do a shameless plug real quick?
What's up?
For anybody that's hungry, Monday through Saturday, 121 Murray Avenue over there used to be called the Mother Lode. We placed our food truck over there. So Order Up is over there. You can come get all the good food that we serve, the steak and cheese, the chicken Phillies. I created the hot dog for the state of Virginia called the Seaville Dog.
Sweet.
I personally think I got the best steak and cheese in the state. I want somebody to come tell me there's not.
Okay.
Come test me out. That's what I'm looking for. All right. So yeah, if you're hungry, anybody on the Fontaine area, anybody from the hospital, everywhere, just come on over there, give us a shot. Tell us what you think.
Gotcha. So yeah, man. So we got all kinds of announcements, good stuff. We're gonna take a quick break and we're gonna get right back to it. But as promised, we're gonna hone in with our good brother here, James Watson, the man, the myth, the legend. We're gonna learn all about it. But also, like I said, more than delighted to be joining Razor and I is our old friend, Aaron Simmons, and that brother is a force to be reckoned with. As soon as he hit the ground down there in Charleston, South Carolina, and so he, he can chime in too with the work that he's doing with the United Way and all that good stuff, man.
His talent made provision for him.
Yes, indeed. You know it. And he's still selling houses. MLS 555.
I got some bread. You want to borrow some money? I got money.
He got some bread.
Hey, yes, indeed, man. So y'all stay with us, and we're gonna get right back to it. Much needed conversation. Gonna talk about the many methods and modes of what mentoring looks like.
Yeah.
So it's IMH Show Talk Show, y'all. Tell a friend. And in the spirit of Skinny Rick Ross over here,
play something fun.
We're gonna let y'all know what God did.
Right.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in this city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories, more people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all these things. Still, the way that black people, and I would say, and I would argue especially black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous, and you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. But this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do the work, critique the work, and make sure that we stay in line with the vision. Another way that the community can get behind the SIM project is through engagement. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're talking about. We want to put your stories out there. And so whether it's reading the articles written by Charlottesville Tomorrow or Vinegar Hill Magazine, or tuning in to In My Humble Opinion on Sundays on 101.3 Jams from noon to 3 p.m., either way, we want you engaged. We want you to be part of this. The community can also support the SIM project through funding. To learn more about how to support SIM, you can visit our website. Thank you for your support.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yeah, know what it is. IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles Razor. Back like we never left. And we got James Watson with us right now, man. And, you know, to formally introduce this good brother, man, James, afternoon. Thank you for taking out your time to join us, man.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I enjoy this shit. I can't even talk. I enjoy this show. Been listening to it for several years.
Yes,
I love the fact that you have it all on social media now. If I miss it, I can go back and watch it later.
That's right. That's right. Good plug, James.
Yeah,
That's what I like about James, man.
Hey, look, I knew that $5 I slipped in a couple years ago was gonna pay off.
And you know what else? For those also don't know, James behind the scene,
Force of nature
has definitely helped us. You know, helped us here at IMHO. You know, we have so many great guests from around, you know, from everywhere that be like, yeah, James Watson recommended. Reach out to you. Or sometimes he may send an email and be like, hey, this would be a great person for the show. Let me introduce you. Here's what they're doing. So definitely appreciate you, man, because we've been on these airways for like 8 years, man, and it's thanks to great community folks like yourself. So wanted to definitely give you your flowers in public.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yes,
Definitely.
indeed. Yeah, man. So Mr. Watson, so a lot of folks probably know you from different things, but we wanted to get a little deeper to see what makes you churn, you know, when it comes to, you know, like you being out with your beautiful kids and always being an exemplary father. And then we see you at the schools, you know, with those students and whatnot. Some folks may know you because you're a UVA grad, man. But you know, like from your professionalism, you know, before we get to the, you know, to the direct mentoring, man, like let folks kind of know like what brought you to Charlottesville and like sort of,
I love this story.
Yeah. Like what brought you to Charlottesville is, I think, is number one because you're so rooted and you're so involved here. I think that's a good way to start.
Okay. Once again, I appreciate it. Many years ago, I was in high school in New Jersey. I grew up right outside of Philadelphia. So, totally different environment. And I had the choices pretty much. My mom said, look, you're going to either go to the military or you're going to go to college. But you're going to get out of my house when you're 18. You ain't going to be living around here, right? You got to go do something.
That's like some Razor would say.
Yeah, exactly. Old school, right? And I appreciate it now too. So I was on a trajectory to go to college, and I was walking down the hallway one day, and one of the only black teachers in my school handed me a flyer that was about a summer program for minority students, primarily black students, to come visit the Darden School at the University of Virginia. Now, again, I'm up in New Jersey. I had traveled a little bit, but I didn't know anything about the University of Virginia except for Dawn Staley.
That's right.
Okay.
She was from Philly, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I see the connection.
So she was about 3 or 4 years older than me. So I filled out the paperwork and came down here and really instantly fell in love with the place. At the time, what the university used to do years ago, and they used to probably more actively recruit minority students back then, they would have a summer program where they had all the football players who were accepted, the basketball players, the minority kids that were about to transition to be first years, upward bound, and any other minority program all at the same time. And we stayed over in Gooch, over by where your food truck is, near Maury. So at the time you'd come here and there would be like 1,000 smart, motivated young black kids at believe it or not, at Virginia at once. And so this was my junior year of high school. So nevertheless, I was like, yeah, I have to come here. This is amazing. Once you get here, you realize it's not really the same sort of show that they put on, but it still was a great overall experience. But you realize, oh, wait a minute. And I think back in those days,
call that the pimp gang.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, but you know what though? Like let's stick a bookmark right there because like we hear that so much, and like that's why it's so important. Like those organizations that we mentioned just a little earlier ago, and like that sense of community, and that sense of network is so important because you're right. It's one thing to sort of be performative about it, sort of put on the show to try to get great folk like yourself here, but it's even more important for us to be able to retain those people. And I would venture to say that one reason that you're probably still here is because you were able to find that sense of community.
Yeah, I feel like the community embraced me early on. This is home. I've always felt more like a local or a townie, as people call it. One of the things that I really try to do in my everyday life here is try to bridge those gaps, because I do believe there tends to be a little bit of a University of Virginia community and a Charlottesville community. And if you went back to the 1950s and 60s, a lot of the Black Charlottesville, of course, would take in UVA students, even if they were, people would even take in students as they were traveling down to Hampton University and other schools. As they came down here on the train, they would stay with various families and families would take care of them. So I've definitely wanted to bridge that gap. You talked about the brotherly, or Razor talked about the brotherly togetherness with the photos that they took a little while ago. And I would love to see that sort of collaboration between Black UVA and Black Charlottesville. I think that, and it's happening here and there. I'm not saying it doesn't happen at all, but I think it would benefit our community greatly. If a lot of that came together.
Absolutely, man. And we are joined by none other than James Watson, Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor. And, in saying that, I got to shout out, like we've been doing, we've been showing the love, maybe this is the Valentine's season why we're showing so much love today. But I definitely got to shout out Dr. Kevin McDonald as well, because, speaking of what you're saying, like he's a man, within the community that's constantly trying to bridge that town and gown, so to speak, and showing ways on how, UVA can definitely, put their resources, within the community and whatnot. So shouts out to, Equity Center as well. Like there's so many people doing good stuff. The thing about it, man, is that, and I'm curious your take on this, especially like how you've seen it differently from being a UVA student to now being a Charlottesville citizen, for the area, is that, and I have this talk, with Equity Center director, like I said, Dr. McDonald, but can UVA ever do enough? Like when you think about the impact socially that the university, has had, you go back through Thomas Jefferson's history, right? And you look at the impact of how much like land it now owns, how the slaves and indentured servants were there, and then now how it's part of the reason why, you know, Charlottesville's cost of living and things like that is the way that it is. So when you look at good people, right, and that's doing good work that are employed by UVA, me being one of them, right, it's like you can understand, right, when the community says, but I see y'all surplus, so you still ain't doing enough.
Right.
Like, can UVA ever do enough for the Charlottesville community?
I would say,
and not just that, but
Oh, go ahead,
also what many might argue as UVA's lack of engagement or collaboration with the city of Charlottesville, considering the impact that the university and anything that kind of branches off from it is having on local citizens.
Yeah, I would say I'm a positive person, but I don't think UVA could ever do enough. You know, obviously, African Americans built the university. Now we're just finally seeing memorials and things, you know, put in place in recognition of the efforts of the many hundreds of African Americans that built and established UVA. And I believe Razor was telling me he's even today in 2024, one of the first vendors, I believe. I might have that wrong, but one of the first Black vendors they've had. You know, with the JPJ and Scott Stadium. So I don't know if they could ever do enough, but at least right now they're beginning to do something, right? You mentioned Mr. McDonald, Dr. McDonald, Mocha, all those programs. So things are happening, you know. Charlottesville.
Do you think that's out of a sense of obligation or a sense of pressure?
I think definitely they were pressured. You know, they were initially pressured. It's an interesting time too because affirmative action is gone. So I wouldn't be here. I would have never seen Charlottesville.
There you go.
You know, not that I wasn't qualified to be here, but I would have never, because again, I was explaining earlier that I'm from outside of Philadelphia. So there was a program those programs are whittling away that brought me here, right? But you know, at least we have some efforts and we have some good people in this community that are aware of this program, even getting the awareness out there. Is going to help the situation. But, you know, there's a lot of other things. Charlottesville's only 10 square miles, right?
That's right.
And then Albemarle County's zoned for rural use only, 95% of it. So you're not even permitted to build in most of Albemarle, dense development. I can go in. That's the planning hat on me too. So I don't want to get too off kilter here.
Since you bring it up though, your profession though, because I know that you are, you know, we're going to get it deeper into like the mentoring part, but your profession. Like tell us a little about that, because you mentioned the UVA thing,
right?
Like let the folks know, you know, about what you do career wise.
Okay, you know? So I'm a project manager for a civil engineering firm. Excuse me. For grad school, I attained a master's in urban environmental planning from the architecture at the University of Virginia, from the architecture school rather. A lot of people that are planners will work for cities, working on zoning, ordinances, upzoning, all that kind of stuff we talk about. So I understand a lot of that greatly. However, in my work, I primarily work with the U.S. military, actually, which has been a real blessing because I've gotten to work with the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines all over the world. You know, I've traveled to about 46 different states and about 5 countries. In about 2 months, I'm going to go over to Poland, which these are places I could have never dreamed that I would get to go to for work when I was growing up. And I've been to Hawaii several times as well. But I look at things from a planning perspective. Again, you know, going back to Charlottesville, I see how, as you mentioned, UVA is growing. You know, it brings money, but it also it reduces housing stock and other opportunities more often than not for the families that have been here for many, many years, working at the university, even cleaning the rooms, you know, repairing things, you know, so. You know, that's something that we all collectively, the people in this room, the people listening, we all have to work to combat that and change and create, you know, more opportunities, again, for the youth and the folks that have been here for a long time.
Now, what did mentoring look like in that sector? Because a lot of times we're first generation, and thankfully, you know, like we're getting, you know, as time goes on, we're getting further and further away from that. We're more accomplished. But based on your description of your work and stuff, like what did that look like for you? Like you said, went from Philadelphia to UVA, you know, like to that side of engineering and whatnot. Like, were there mentors there for you?
Yeah, actually, you know, I would say throughout my entire life, you know, I've been really blessed with mentors, with very strong male and females, but definitely strong men along the way. My father's not a college educated, you know, person, but he's a good man. You know, which that
doesn't
matter.
Generation?
I wasn't a first generation because my mother did go to college and she was a teacher. My dad was in the Army. But when I came here, Rob Archer, who runs the code, he's one of my mentors. There you
go.
He he owned a yogurt store in Charlottesville, and he was at Darden at the time as a student. When I came back as a junior, in high school. So him, Juan Wade, there's a lot of people that I've been able to look at and say, yeah, I love the way this man operates.
Yeah.
And when we aspire to be what we see, right?
Right.
So yeah, there's been people along the way in this town.
Yeah. And that's so important, Max, because when people think about mentoring, a lot of times we think, okay, so you got to have some like well-to-do adult that finds a kid like that doesn't know what direction to go. But mentoring has so many faces to it, right? And that's so important because one thing in the Charlottesville area, one crisis that we have are our young adults. Like the in between, I could finish high school, but I don't feel like I'm college material. So then, A, can I get a job? 2, can I provide for myself? Can I put a roof over my head? Or am I bouncing job to job? You know what I mean? And kind of not getting that focus. So that level of mentoring, you being a young adult and having those men to be like, yo, you can do this. Like, and let me, give you a hand.
Yeah, that's actually one of the ages I like to work with the most. And it can be a very complicated age. A lot of times if you sort of become a part of a young man's life when they're 17, it takes them a little while to trust you. But there's kids even at CHS I'm talking to and I'm saying, hey, look, you're coming near the end of this. This town isn't very well set up for somebody who doesn't have some type of a trade skill or a degree. Now you can also become an entrepreneur, but it's not like if you went down to Norfolk, right? You have a shipyard, at least you have somewhere you can work and get benefits. And it may make a good salary, but here it's a lot different. Everything has been more towards designed more towards people with college degrees. But so I try to, help some young men figure out, hey, what are your options? Trade schools.
So
the military. They don't have the military coming to schools here anymore. The military can be great. You can travel all over the world. And, a lot of people have fear of war and all that kind of thing. But, if you get in the Air Force, you can see so many things, buy property, So I try to preach those things to some of the younger men that I talk to that are kind of on their way out and trying to figure it out so they don't get stuck.
So out of curiosity, are you finding that most of these young men just don't have a clue? Like quite possibly they're being asked these questions for the very first time in their lives and it also speaks to the fact of how the system, the educational system or what have you, those responsible for them have failed them in their younger days as far as preparing them for the steps as they enter adulthood.
And I can't say I can't speak for all young black men in our area, but I do feel that a lot of people are clueless. I know, as I said early on, my mom said, you got basically 2 or 3 options, but you're getting out of my house. So mine was pretty much, hey, I've got to figure something out. But our area tends to be college. And college is not really the answer. It's not really the answer for everybody, and it's expensive.
Yeah, the only reason I ask is because I'm a stern believer that mentorship should start very, very young.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, very, very young. Sometimes we, while offering those services as the child gets older is great, I think it'll have the most impact and reap the most benefits if it starts when they're in elementary school.
Right.
Yep. Straight into, I guess it would be like Head Start and kindergarten.
Right. Yep. Yeah. And I would kind of segue that into the 100 Black Men because a lot of the core group, even though I mentioned that I really love working with the older 17 through 20-year-old guys, but a lot of really our work with the 100 Black Men of Central Virginia starts around 5th grade.
Yeah.
And so we have a variety of different programming that we offer to the community. One of our core programs is the M-Cube summer program, which is 2 weeks in the summer. So I know you guys have 2 little guys that are in school right now. And within the next couple of years, they'll be eligible. It's held at the lab school. And during that time, we work with the young men to, increase their confidence in math, right, and STEM. And we expose them. We have men come in as mentors and talk about or role models what they're doing. We have engineering folks from UVA come in. A lot of, you had Mr. Patterson on here a couple weeks ago. A lot of kids in this area will go all the way through school without ever having a black male teacher. Right?
That's right.
They're only 2%.
You said you never had one, right?
I never had one.
Yeah.
Oh, you never had one either?
And so we try to provide some of that. And like you talked about the photo shoot, the beauty of seeing these young men, and Charles, I believe your sons did the program, they begin to form a bond with each other. And when they see each other around town, they say hi and they talk to each other and they connect and they hold each other accountable. And so that 2 weeks is powerful. And then after that, we continue on with them on a Monday call called the Circle of Brothers over Zoom, where we have about 20 kids that come every week and about 3 or 4 men that come in, and we do financial literacy. How do I handle my money? My parents never taught me that. How do I write a check, balance my checkbook, buy property? How do I build wealth? So we talk to them about those things or simple things. What'd you do over Christmas break? But we're forming this bond, as you're saying, early from 5th grade on up. And the program, of course, has been around much longer than I've been a part of it. It's been part of Charlottesville for about 16 years.
And you're VP now, right?
Yep, that's my new title. Yep, Vice President of the 100 Black Men.
Good stuff.
And but it's phenomenal when you get around the kids. Even if you come on the Zoom call, costs no money. Anybody in the area, 5th through 12th grade, is welcome. And when you just hear how intelligent these young men are and how they work their way through problems, it's mind blowing.
Got you. So let's stick a pin in it right there, y'all. We're up against hours. We're gonna take a quick break and come right back with the Vice President of the 100 Black Men of Central Virginia. And when we get back, we're gonna dive deeper into some things that y'all brought up too, because I wanted Razor to chime in too, because we were talking about like that young adulthood and you trying to find ways to stay legal, even if you're not going to college or post ed. And the pressures behind that, you know what I mean? And so the need for mentoring there. I want Aaron to chime in as well, because I know he's doing a lot of great mentoring. But and as Max said, let's get into the actual needs of mentoring at lower levels, and maybe James can let us know what that possibly looks like. You know what I mean? Like, how can we get more involved to start at younger ages? So yes, IMHO, y'all will be right back with James Watson. Stay tuned.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, Black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More Black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that, and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in this city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories, more people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all these things. Still, the way that black people, and I would say, and I would argue especially black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous, and you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. But this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do the work, critique the work, and make sure that we stay in line with the vision. Another way that the community can get behind the SIM project is through engagement. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're talking about. We want to put your stories out there. And so whether it's reading the articles written by Charlottesville Tomorrow or Vinegar Hill Magazine, or tuning in to In My Humble Opinion on Sundays on 101.3 Jams from noon to 3 p.m., either way, we want you engaged. We want you to be part of this. The community can also support the SIM project through funding. To learn more about how to support SIM, you can visit our website. Thank you for your support.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that, and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in this city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories, more people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all these things. Still, the way that black people, and I would say, and I would argue especially black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous, and you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. But this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do the work, critique the work, and make sure that we stay in line with the vision. Another way that the community can get behind the SIM project is through engagement. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're talking about. We want to put your stories out there. And so whether it's reading the articles written by Charlottesville Tomorrow or Vinegar Hill Magazine, or tuning in to In My Humble Opinion on Sundays on 101.3 Jams from noon to 3 p.m., either way, we want you engaged. We want you to be part of this. The community can also support the SIM project through funding. To learn more about how to support SIM, you can visit our website. Thank you for your support.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Back like we never left. IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor, even got Aaron up in the place.
Yeah.
And speaking of Razor, got Razor over in the production room. Razor.
Hey, can you hear me?
Man, we can hear you, bro.
Hey, that's
look at God.
It's like you never left.
That's right. That's why I say what I say,
like
James.
man.
Yes, indeed. Because you know you can be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we are so delighted. Like Aaron, he is technically always anywhere in the world. Never know where he gonna pop up. But Aaron, man, like when you hear this conversation, like what's some thoughts that go through your mind? Because of course, our loyal listeners know, we ain't got to take them back, but so far, but they know how the community work, coaching youth basketball and all that good stuff when you were up here. But when your boots hit the ground in Charleston, man, like what was that reception like? And like what drove you to be like, it's a part of who I am to volunteer, to mentor?
Yeah, one correction. I'm in Columbia.
I'm sorry, my bad. I keep saying Charleston. Hey, look, but I was trying to help you out because I don't want people looking for you. You know what I mean? So I was trying to throw them off a little bit.
My phone number's public, bro. You know they're gonna find me anywhere. So.
MLS 32757.
But really, man. So when I got to this new area, so quiet as kept. I'm not sure if people realize, but one of the primary reasons that I wanted to move was because I wanted to go to a black city, because I wanted to have an effect. Like that was very, very intentional, coming from family and from parents that were very service oriented. I grew up in a black city, and just shout out to Jamaica, Queens. Queens get the money. You know how to do it.
Razor, I thought we would get through a show.
No, you're not. You're not. But I just know I see Charles, we've had these conversations. I see the needs, what is happening in our communities and what's necessary. And if you have the shoulders to take on more, we need to do more. Like this literally we can't complain about stuff and then not have people that are actively getting involved. Like if I know about finance, but I'm not helping young people, older people, and other people with finance, then I'm doing a disservice. If Max is good at her particular talent, which is public speaking, mentoring, and getting involved in the community, and she decides that she just don't want to do it, well, we can't say we have the resources because the people that are doing it are not willing to do it. So when I hear James say that, he's just another boots on the ground, whether it can be in an organization, whether or not, number one, it starts with your home, your family, your number one ministry is your children. and your spouse and your partner. That's where it starts with, and then everything else expands from there. So if you want to see something better for your group, you got to do something in your group, because as we talk about this, no one's coming to save you. Nobody.
Right.
Ain't no angel. They not flying down, and they will continue to have whoever you decide that they is. But if a boot is on your neck, it's your job to get the boot off your neck.
That's right.
You cannot expect the other person to say, "Hey, I'm gonna give you a little bit of a leeway." That's not how economic warfare works. It's my job to keep my foot on your neck. It's my job to make sure that your children are being unproductive. And if you want to change that, guess what? You got to change it. So shout out to James and everything that he's doing, man.
Yeah. So we have, like James mentioned, Vice President, 100 Black men. But there's still criteria, like you're a chartered organization. So and I think people forget this, and this feeds into what y'all are saying. You got to have a mission. You got to have a vision. Like, that's constituted to be a nonprofit. So what we do a lot of times is people will look at the 100 Black men and be like, why y'all start at 5th grade? Or why the kids got to have this and have that? Now, realizing that there's other organizations as well that may be filling other gaps. And if they're not, to Aaron's point, we need to be creating those other organizations to make sure that we cover the gamut. But that's my question to everybody, though. Like, from what you see, what do you think it's going to take to get more people involved? Because we see the need for there to be mentors for our children to be able to not just look up to, but to be able to also like get experiences, from, to be able to learn about, hey, this is like, these are my talents, somebody that sees that in you, right? And be able to nurture that. So when y'all are out there, like, what's attracting people? What's missing? How can we get people involved?
Right. That's a good question.
Yeah, right. I think that's what Max was asking earlier. Like, we got to start younger, but to start younger, we got to figure out how to get more Jameses, more Aaron.
Yeah. And that's the thing that we need the capacity, right? We need the people. One thing too, that would kind of help with some of that is the various groups that we have. Because one good thing about Charlottesville, there are plenty of positive organizations, City of Promise,
absolutely,
Prolific Run Crew, the Uru Foundation. You can go on and on. What I would love to see is probably a monthly call or collaboration where we start combining resources, because there's something appealing, almost sexy about some of these groups, at least to me, right? I mean, the logos, what people are doing, what they're posting, what's actually happening, CAV Futures even. So, we probably need to, again, start meeting on a monthly basis. And then, because a lot of times we're all working with the same kids, even Mocha as well, with UVA. Where a lot of us will show up or you'll show up to a school and somebody just left, right? So I think if we can combine forces where it's possible, that'll help. And as that energy grows, more people say, hey, I want to be part of that.
I
don't want to be left on the sideline. I want to be part of making people better.
And
hey, Charles, can I say something?
Real quick. The resources can be different. If you don't have the time per se, you may have some money. And by donating money and stuff can then empower the folks who have boots on the ground to do more for the kids or provide more for the kids. So, I mean, so it helps in different facets. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Hey, one thing I want to say about the boots on the ground part is that a lot of the organizations that you just named, me included, never had any discipleship. So we don't always know exactly what to give these kids, like a blueprint for them to follow. I know for where I am, with all the rooms that I walk into, with all the firsts that I have, I'm also a person who is an ex-con. And a lot of people have my story that don't have my outcome, but I'm still figuring it out along the way. So there's times where I want to give stuff to kids, but I just don't know what to give them because I'm figuring it out at the same time. And I know that our community doesn't always give the grace that's needed for the mistakes that happen along the way.
Say so. Yeah.
So I'm stuck right there because, like, when you said earlier, you wanted me to speak on, like, what is the path for, like, if you don't go to college and you don't do all these things and you've had some hiccups. Well, I would have never picked my path. I've been in survival mode for a long time. And to turn to somebody and say, look, okay, this is survival mode. This is what I want you to do so you can get to where you think I am. That's a difficult conversation to have if you're being honest.
For sure. And Razor, you know what I think is key with that, though, is that everything has its season. Like, so there's a business accomplishments that you've made to where just because another area is still in the works, you still could be like, you know what? Like, there's a young man that I may could hire to help me this food truck because he wants to learn more about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or there's somebody that I can bring into the, like into the kitchen or to like Dulce to see what we doing. Like, so to me, mentoring can look anyway, right? It can look anyway. And also the fact, like we were talking about like that young adult space too, right? And like sometimes they feel like I don't have any other choice but to do something illegal, right? But think about the mentoring though, Razor, and we've talked about this on air before, you know what I mean? Is that you felt like that you got a group of brothers who essentially were mentoring, right? And then that had to help in, you know what? I can do this. I can run this business. I ain't gotta go back to the streets to provide.
You would be an excellent mentor.
Yeah,
don't overthink about it. That's the problem with becoming an adult. We overthink. You have a business that's at the JPJ right now. You do concessions at multiple city locations. So you're a perfect role model.
Yeah. And just to clarify too, I'm being critical when we talk about mentorship opportunities at younger ages. I am more so being critical of these organizations like your Head Start programs, like your social services, like your whomever who may be receiving local funding or state funding to do what they do, but apparently aren't doing it effectively.
Facts.
And so I am a huge proponent of holding these different groups accountable.
Yep.
What did you spend the money on? And show me how it worked. And that, I also feel that way about Charlottesville City Schools, but just saying that's more so what I'm being critical of. Not that there aren't these organic groups that are formed who can, if they have adequate resources, be able to offer those same type of things. But it's those things that are designated or designed, Charles, to be able to offer that some form of mentorship at a younger age, who I think are also failing. And if you're getting money for it, then you should be held accountable for the results. And if you're ineffective, then maybe we need to choose an alternative.
Absolutely. That's very well said, Max. Like, I think that's accountability, right? It's like, because I really heard two things in that. It's like it's nothing wrong with holding people accountable, right? But then and at the same time, it's also our duty to make sure like that we connect the dots. Because I heard you mention like all those different departments. Some are governmental, some are community groups and whatnot. And like, I think we could do a better job at even explaining. And kind of to James's point, you talking about having even like a monthly meetup of all the different organizations. Because I think like a lot of people may look at one group and be like, well, don't you do this? So it's a level of education to be like, well, no, you actually need to go, here and here. You know what I mean? You know what it makes me think of too? It's like, even when we think about our politicians, whether local or otherwise, it's like there's a fine line between holding them accountable and not appreciating like the good that they're actually doing. You know what I mean? And somehow I feel like just the human race we got to figure out that balance. You know what I mean? It's like Barack wasn't black enough, but now we wish we had Barack. You know what I mean? But we are joined. Oh, Aaron, why you look at me side eyes? You don't want Barack back there? Come on, air it out. Aaron.
Man, whatever. I wanted to
halfway serious, halfway. I'm gonna laugh just because it seemed appropriate.
Here we go.
But we are joined by James Watson as well as Aaron Simmons, and talking a little mentoring. But you also mentioned the 100 Black Men and whatnot. So I do want you to take the opportunity to also from that standpoint of what people like, how they can contribute. Like, if you guys have something going on right now to where people can sign up, they can donate, they can attend events, let us know whatever you want to pitch.
Excellent. So let me just provide the audience a couple more bits of information too. Last year, we were able to award 42 scholarships to young African-American men who were graduating high school. Awesome. That was the most scholarships we ever awarded in a year.
From schools within the city?
From Charlottesville, Albemarle, Madison,
Green,
Nelson, Savannah.
Louisa,
We went out to all the high schools. So we're starting to establish relationships too with the various high schools. And this year we're hoping to actually award a little bit more money. But all of that money that we award, all the money that comes in goes back out to the kids. Again, we have no paid staff. And, so we would love, any types of donations from local businesses, local individuals. We're always looking to recruit members. You don't have to be an African-American male to be one of our brothers. So anybody's welcome to join. But yeah, in order to, in order to really operate, you have to have funding. And, one of the things too, this year, we actually got a grant from the United Way, the Women's United. It's a subset of the United Way. And this year, we're going to be able to award some scholarships to African-American females as well.
Nice.
So
awesome. So is that connected with the Black Women of Central Virginia at all, or is that something just hundreds don't?
It's a separate organization. Yeah. Ideally, we'd like to award more actually to ladies as well. But again, everything is based on how much money we raise. So thank you for having us on the radio.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And again, really pretty much what comes in goes back out. The only time really anybody gets paid as of now is we do pay teachers in the summer for our 2-week summer program. But other than that, everything goes back into the kids.
James, my question is why?
Yeah. What's that?
Why?
Why don't we get paid?
No. Why?
That's a good question.
I'm like,
that's a good question.
Why are we? Oh God. Why are we giving? If it's the 100 Black men, why do we feel the need to disperse it out to anything other than a Black male?
A valid question.
Well, right, currently there is no female counterpart to our group. And we want to help our sisters out as well. And we've got and the grant we actually were awarded was for a women's empowerment organization. So we want to honor that grant and then identify those talented young women in our schools and make sure that they're getting the same love, because they need the same love. They're going through the same things.
I get that. I'm just saying, like, what my fear is that instead of us developing 100 Black women that can give the scholarships that are needed, that it's going to be what the United Negro College Fund started out to be. Then it became, instead of Negroes, it's anything that has any type of color that's non-white. Then it became, something else. So and I'm just being honest, and I'm not trying to be racist by no means, but when you say, like, you don't have to be Black to be part of this, great. Everybody wants to be kumbaya. But over the course of history, that indoctrination has ruined our people and our organizations. And I'm talking about receipts. I'm not talking about what I think will happen in the future. I'm just talking about integration ain't never worked for us. So even if it's for us to help our sisters, why can't we build something that goes for the sisters and keep the 100 Black men for the Black men?
Can I chime in on that real quick too? And I'm curious, James, and everybody's thoughts too. So, Razor, the way I think about that is like, look at it from the business standpoint as well. It's like you got some folk who be like, I'm gonna start a Black business in a Black neighborhood. I'm gonna serve Black people. To me, that's not the best business model for it, because if you look at it on the flip side, other nationalities will take anybody's money. So really, my answer, all of it, like, so to my,
but is it a business?
Like, so my answer to your question, but that's what I just wanted to draw that analogy, because it's on us, it's on the leaders, whoever owns it, whoever is running it, to keep that control, to keep that sanctity and that integrity, right? So so anybody with any resource that wants to contribute to our cause, I personally don't see an issue with that. The issue is we can't sell out. Because what I heard you saying, Razor, because if I'm understanding you, what I heard you saying is that, like, we essentially sell out and then other folks come in and take control. So it's on the leadership to be like, yes, you can help, but you ain't running this. Like, this is where we stand. And just lastly, for James chimes in, the other key point I don't want the listeners to miss is that you mentioned grant. So I think that goes back to even what Max was saying, was like, yes, we need to have an upstanding organization that grant money could have went to for our Black girls. But since it wasn't, people with the grant money said, 100 Black men, if we give you this money, can you help us get it to Black girls?
Right.
So they don't even have a choice, because the grant stipulates that it's for Black girls.
Right. And there's not an equivalent organization at the moment in Charlottesville.
Right.
Folks have tried to get it off the ground over time, and there'll probably be a 100 Black women potentially one day. But, we're just conveying that, right? or just bringing the money, carrying the money over, more or less in that case.
I'm just looking at society.
Yeah, it's not like.
No, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Society as a whole always tries to take from the black male,
Mm-hmm.
if it is for the same child that will get a black female services and help and TANF and everything will lock a black male up. Same child.
I feel you.
So
like look at the NAACP and all these different groups. And to me, like I still look at black folk. If we come in and volunteer and take officer roles, then nobody else can take them. But a lot of times it's like we leave the door open because we ain't taking care of our own organizations, but then we gonna get mad when somebody else comes in and does it.
That's true.
I'm staying quiet because I'm not opposed to Razor's thoughts on black men having something specifically for black men. I know there's a narrative and very much so a reality of the dynamic between a black male and a black female, and how the female the thoughts that she has about the black male and what role he doesn't play with her in society, in their community, and things like that. And unfortunately, a lot of that is a negative perception. But I do believe that black men are entitled to have something that's specifically for black men, and it does not have to be to the negative for black women, as long as the black females have something that benefits them as well, is intended to help them or provide the same resources for them in the same way, then it is. I agree with it. Then I agree with it.
Can I add something, Charles, real quick?
Yeah, I was going to ask you too because I was curious what you if you mentor both. But go ahead.
So first of all, I ain't seen my sister Max in a minute. What's up, lady?
Hey, Ron.
Hold on. Max, so ain't nobody's fault but his own.
But not only is what Max said 1,000% true, I think the other part that we all should agree with is that both parties should be advocating that that's the problem, is that you don't have to separate it. What Razor said is 1,000%. The sister should be like, listen, if we need our brothers to have these organizations and it makes them better men by being isolated, 1,000%. The brothers should be saying, ladies, you guys need your own stuff isolated from men, and then we might have something that's inclusive. And I think the problem is and Max said it very, very eloquently, there's this battle, and that battle is totally unnecessary when y'all got the same problem. To give you a little background, Charles, the reason why I volunteer is because I deal with children, and I have children. I have older children. I was coaching the smaller children, and those children could not read. And it did not take me 5 or 10 minutes to figure out that those kids could not read and that those kids had developmental issues. And so what I decided to do with my own time, and by the way, I see we got a couple people on here. I just want to make a point. I volunteer with the United Way. I am the only black male in my local volunteer space that goes into an elementary school.
And you're in a black
and I'm in a black city. And guess what the rest of those people look like? It is predominantly white females. Now, I'm going to say this. This is not popular, but I don't care about saying it. How I view my babies and how a white woman might view black people in society is very, very different.
Of course.
So when people ask me why I volunteer, that is the reason why. Because I look at our children the way that I'm supposed to look at our children. I can't guarantee that another group is going to look at our babies the same. And that's why we need to have groups that are exclusive, like 100 Black Men and things of that nature. Doesn't mean that everybody can't help. But as Razor was talking about, society has created these dynamics to where most people are anti-Black, period. They may not want to talk about it. They may not want to admit it, but it's true. When you see a problem, that's why we have 100 Black Men. You have to go in, Charles. You have to help. And the last thing I'll say is being intentional. You have to be intentional on what we want to create. Now, I think I've told this story, but I think it's appropriate for this. I went to an AAU tournament maybe 7 years ago. Tony Bennett was sitting in there, UVA coach, great coach. There was 500 young black males in there running up and down the court playing basketball. Every black parent that was in there was intentional about those kids learning how to play basketball. If the 100 Black Men puts on a reading symposium for STEM, for engineering, for comprehension, we are not going to have 500 children or 500 parents in there. What are we intentionally trying to create in our communities? Do we want to create athletes or do we want to create scholars? We want to create business people. We want to create tradespeople. So our results are what we see is what's important. Period. Yep. What we see is whether we like it or not. If we got a bunch of R&B singers running around, that's because we think R&B singers are important. But if we got a bunch of students and scholars running around, we might change that. If we got a bunch of Razors running around, a bunch of Charles, a bunch of Mr. Watsons running around, bunch of Charles. But that's what I'm saying. If we got business people running around, that's what we decided to make a shift. And that's the thing that I think we're having trouble with admitting is maybe some of the things that we think are very important are really not.
Thank you for that, man. Thank you for that. Yeah.
You know, that's a complicated thing to kind of unpack because I'm sure a lot of those parents had their kids out there and running around and were there supporting them because that's what they're good at. And it's the only thing they're good at. And it's the thing that brings them happiness. And we just trying to support them in that way, you know.
And that's what I think the problem is. We support the happiness.
And Max, let me tell you something, Max. That baby, I know that baby. I just talked to a teacher. I know we got to go. I talked to a teacher that's teaching 5th grade children. She said these babies are on kindergarten reading level since COVID.
I get it. No, I'm not defending it at all, but I think that's the mindset of the parents.
I agree. Yep.
And I would say, can't we do both though?
We can do both.
You
if we're
got
intentional, we can do both.
We are not equipped to do both.
How you know we're
You speaking for every black parent right now?
And I come from the pimp world. I ain't letting y'all do it. But we are not equipped to do it at this time. We have to get a foothold to where we know, okay, we got this under control. But you can't take 2 steps at a once. That's a jump.
Are you speaking generally? Like so,
you can't jump because then wherever you land, you're committed to it, and there is no safe haven. That's why you take steps.
I feel you. But just to clarify, the part that I disagree on is just I'm saying that if your child loves basketball or whatever, then like you should be there cheering and screaming and yelling for them. But what I mean by 2 things at the same time is, you know, when you get home, I'm making you do your work. You're going to study. It ain't just going to be basketball. That's the only point I was making.
We're not equipped to do that. Like,
I disagree with you there, bro.
No, let me say this. We're not equipped to do it because most families in our community are single family home.
Okay, generally speaking, I feel
right. So you can't ask a female who generally is in charge of the home to provide 2-3 jobs that she's working, do for the kids, cook and do. Like, come on now. We call our women super women, but at the same time, we got to understand that what we're expecting out of them is their kryptonite.
I feel you.
You know what I'm saying? So why would she not be upset at the male who's not there, who's not really doing anything? Because guess what? That kid that's good at basketball that can't read grows up to be a grown up that can't help their kid at the teachers conference.
That's but at the end of the day, it becomes a choice. Where there's a will, there's a way. If you're intentional, it can be done. It's the choices.
I feel you. And that's what the volunteers
is prioritizing.
Yep. Thank you. That's
so look where we are then.
No, I get you.
We didn't chose. What have we chose up to this point?
I agree. I agree.
But that's where the volunteers and the mentoring comes in. Now, it's another day for another show when we're gonna talk about like the family dynamic. Like we talk about mentoring and volunteering, but you're absolutely right. Like we got to have James and Aaron back to talk about like the roles that family plays within the mentoring. Because like James, I know from the 100 nationally, and I don't know about United Way, Aaron, like with y'all's like criteria and what do you call it, like the mentor training module is. But one thing that the mentor organizations should be teaching, I know 100 teaches, is that you are not the parent. Like you don't replace the parent. Like, and even simple things, even something. But again, if that family dynamic is missing, again, like that's a conversation for another day. But that's something that definitely needs to be addressed, because it's the simple things of like, as a mentor, black man, you don't take kid in private, single mom. You don't be doing things in private. You be in the public because you do not want to be liable for something like that. That dynamic is real. Yeah. But hey, James, thank you for joining us. Hey, Aaron, thank you. Y'all both can hang out as long as you want. We are coming right back, and we're going to talk about, speaking of family dynamics, we're going to be talking about insurance versus crowdfunding, because black people, I'm tired of seeing us not having our finances in order. And then we get the GoFundMe accounts, y'all. We gonna talk about it. We gonna talk about it. Let's get some things in order. And I hope Aaron can stay on for that conversation. But James,
yeah, I'm here.
But James, but thank you for joining us, and you can hang out with us too, brother, if you want. But let the folks know how to reach you and your organization.
Yeah, hey, thanks again for having me on. I've enjoyed this conversation. I've learned a lot. You guys can find us really the simple way. Just Google 100 Black Men of Central Virginia. We would love to add some more members. We also would love donations. So again, if you are just a local community member, a local business, we'd love your donation so we can operate and keep these programs going.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, indeed. Family, stay tuned. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with none other than insurance expert Kimberly Sheffield.
Imho Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that, and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in this city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories, more people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all these things. Still, the way that black people, and I would say, and I would argue, especially black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous, and you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. But this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do the work, critique the work, and make sure that we stay aligned with the vision. Another way that the community can get behind the SIM project is through engagement. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're talking about. We want to put your stories out there. And so whether it's reading the articles written by Charlottesville Tomorrow or Vinegar Hill Magazine, or tuning in to In My Humble Opinion on Sundays on 101.3 Jams from noon to 3 p.m., either way, we want you engaged. We want you to be part of this. The community can also support the SIM project through funding. To learn more about how to support SIM, you can visit our website. Thank you for your support.
But truth is that Kimberly Sheffield is an insurance specialist amongst other things, and we're so glad to have her with us today. How are you today, Kim?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
Yep, you're more than welcome. And so I'm gonna let the cat out the bag, Kim, because I reached out to you and I was like, I think you'd be good to come on the show. And you were a little reluctant, but we had a conversation and you obliged, right? But what this is about is we had this conversation, her being an insurance specialist,
Okay,
Max.
yeah.
And me actually going through something that I know a lot of our people go through.
Mhm.
And I see it on social media quite too often.
Okay.
Which is when tragedy strikes, it becomes apparent that we don't have our finances in order.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that happens to all people everywhere, but it hurts when I see our people go through it knowing that we have access to wealth build now.
Mm-hmm.
Like we really don't have the excuse anymore that like we didn't know, and like we don't have the ability, because there's so many ways to save and invest.
Mm-hmm.
And insurance being one of those caveats. So we're gonna dig into that, particularly when I see us posting the GoFundMes. And I being someone who who recently had to go through a death in the family, thinking that based on our conversations and everything, you had everything straight.
Yep, everything was straight.
Time came, it wasn't straight. Now, thank God that that we have a family unit to where we were able to pull together, and everything was cool. But so many times I see our people are not able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a conversation that is much needed. I'm looking forward to it. But Kim, for those that don't know, and you were on with us just a couple months ago, because you all did a financial workshop up in Madison County. And so just go ahead and reintroduce yourself real quick for those that don't know. Like, let them know who you are, yo experience in the field, how long you been at this, all that good stuff.
My name is Kimberly Sheffield. I've been in the insurance industry, the insurance game, for a long time. If I tell you the amount of years, I'd be telling my age, so I won't do that. I'm well versed in all lines of business. However, I specialize in life insurance and business insurance. So before we dig into crowdfunding, GoFundMe accounts, it would be remiss of me not to acknowledge that this is an incredibly sensitive topic.
Okay.
Why?
Well, because unfortunately, some folks just don't have the means. They're not prepared, so they have to turn to GoFundMe accounts. So 20 years ago, had GoFundMe accounts been readily available, I don't know if I'd be in the insurance industry. It was through the experience of losing a loved one, and you just went through it without life insurance, that triggered me to pursue an insurance career. So
nice. I appreciate that disclaimer, because that is very true.
But how much of it comes down to choices? Like if you got all the new iPhones and all the new Jordans and, all these things that are your wants.
That's a big part. We've talked about that. That's a big part.
It is.
It don't take much to get a policy, right, Kim?
It doesn't. And the last time I was on the show, I said my Starbucks addiction would definitely fund probably a $2-3 million term life insurance policy. A lot of it does have to do. Hey, I survive on Starbucks. A lot of it does have to do with priorities. We're not leaving Verizon with the new iPhone 5000 without insurance. How many of us have Hulu subscriptions, Netflix subscriptions, Amazon Prime, you name it, we've got it. So when we're talking about life insurance and you're saying you can't afford it, but you've got every subscription on the planet, it's a priority thing.
It's a priority thing. Yeah. And Aaron, you are still on the line with us as well. Like, what's your take on this? Just, just the overview of how insurance plays a role when it comes to to the home dwelling, or when somebody looks at potentially getting a property or even renting. And I know Kim can touch on this as well, but the importance of knowing that you have to protect your valuables. Like it's just not enough to get the valuables.
So number one, I first of all want to just thank the sister for coming on and all the outstanding work she's doing. You're talking to somebody, and I'm giving people a perspective. You're talking to somebody that doesn't have a big car note and pays $500 a month in term and permanent insurance.
Hey, Reggie, we remember hearing them windshield wipers.
Hey, look, you know what? Look, that's why.
Like, come on, bro. Hey, man, go ahead and get your Range Rover. You can afford it.
Man, but for me, it was important, and I am going to give a plug, because the guy that just did my permanent policy, you guys know him, Sean Pendleton. So Sean did my permanent policy. Sean is a sharp brother. He helped me out with that, but it's mandatory, and you got to make room for it. And I'm going to say something, and I would like the insurance reps I need her to help me out because I might get some stones thrown on me. But not having it is extremely selfish because we always, our group, I'm talking about Black people, we're having an in the room barbershop conversation. We are always starting at a deficit. It can't go through generation of grandmama died with no money, mama died with no money, now you die with no money, and then you got this sharp young brother, young sister, young family coming up, and they got some ideas, and all they need is a little bit of capital. You might not have been able to do it in your lifetime, but leaving that person something, at least gives that opportunity for that other person or grandchild or somebody that you don't even know to have a better opportunity. I always say as a man, if you are not thinking about people beyond you, you are extremely selfish.
Yeah. And it can cost you more in the end. Ain't that right, Kim?
Absolutely. So I think that you have to also know who you're responsible for in death, right? So in life, I'm responsible for me and my kid, but in death, I'm responsible for at least 10 people. My mom, my dad, my brothers, my sisters, my child. So if something happens to them and I haven't had a holistic conversation with them, whether they have life insurance or not, that burden falls back on me. And if I don't know if they have life insurance or not, then I'm at square one.
Yeah. That's spot on. You are absolutely right.
Can you be too young, like, to have the conversation or to get life insurance? Have the conversation too, but to get it. So I'm thinking about your 21-year-old, your 25-year-old.
So it's best to buy life insurance when you're young and you're healthy. So my sister just had a baby in December.
Okay.
As soon as she was 12 days old, she's got life insurance.
Okay.
And so with that particular policy, there's a rider endorsed called a GIO, which means that God forbid she's diagnosed with something crazy and no longer can get insurance. Every so often she's able to increase that policy without going through underwriting. So it's best to buy young and while you're healthy.
Yeah, which makes sense, so they can't deny you and all that stuff. Real quick, just to further preface our conversation that we're going into, touch on the value other than the cash benefit in lieu of someone's death, because life insurance is even like an investment in some regards, right? Like there's other ways that just having a policy benefits you, correct?
Well, a lot of products have different benefits. So if you're looking at whole life policies or universal life policies, there's cash value, account value. Depending on how much you're investing into the policy, later on, you can take money out, you can borrow, you can withdraw your dividends. A lot of people look at me like I'm crazy at how much money I invest in my daughter's life insurance policies, but I want to ensure that when she gets to age 18, 19, 20, she will never have to go to a One Main or a Landmark and get a small loan with a 26.9% interest rate.
That's what I'm getting at. Yep.
If she wants to go purchase a vehicle and needs a down payment, if she wants to purchase a property and needs $10,000 cash down, she can borrow against herself and pay herself back.
That's right.
So, depending on the product, depends on what type of return you can get, but life insurance definitely can be used as an investment vehicle. But again, depending on the product.
But what about the people who are, let's say our listenership, they 45 plus, they've been diagnosed with hypertension, diabetes, high blood pressure. What do they do? Because to my understanding, we're telling them they're responsible for making sure everything is in order. But how do they make something in order when they really can't get good insurance?
There are products out there that don't ask for underwriting. Hypertension is primarily not going to disqualify you. Being overweight is not always going to disqualify you. Depending on the company and the product, there are insurance policies out there that insure folks with pre-existing conditions. You gotta have some resource. You've got to dig. You've got to find that company, and you've got to find the right product for you.
And that kind of goes back to what Max is saying, right? Like that's the importance as well of like the younger you get it, the better, right? So as us parents and stuff looking out for our kids, that's the importance because you want to get it before it's going to cost you more because of God forbid you have those health issues, right?
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people, life insurance, considering life insurance at such a young age is an afterthought. Like, why do I need it? And still got a lot of living left to do, and there's time to make that decision. And so that's why that was pretty much my premise for asking that question, is for people to understand why it's so significant to get it while they're younger.
Those tough conversations, right? That's what we're talking about, Kim. Like, what tips would you give on that? And we'll take a quick break and we'll come right back and get to some of the points that I know you wanted to make in regards to insurance versus crowdfunding. But those tough conversations, what would be your advice to, like, even what Razor was saying, what Max was just saying? You got somebody in your family, in your life, and I'm asking you as a specialist, because I'm sure you have these conversations all the time. Like, it's a tough conversation, but you gotta have it, and you will appreciate it later.
Yeah. So take action, prepare. You got to have the conversation. Mom, do you have life insurance? Dad, do you have life insurance? If no, this is my follow-up question. So, Dad, if something happens to you, how am I going to bury you? Right? We're all going to die. That's
fact of life.
We just don't know when.
Yeah.
So what are we going to do to prepare for this?
Right. Yes, indeed.
If I'm being completely transparent, I'm one of those kids who is afraid to ask her mother whether or not she has life insurance. And when you talk about it being a difficult conversation, I think especially generationally, the response or the line of thinking is, you trying to rush me off, or you trying to figure out what you're gonna get? Or
black people, boy.
It's none of your business.
The answer is yes. What we doing?
But here's what I'm gonna say about that. You know how much money is in unclaimed life insurance benefits because folks don't know who their beneficiaries are? So why are we not having that conversation? Who's your beneficiary? Where's the roadmap when something happens? Where do I go find your paperwork, your policy? What insurance company is it with? Because at the end of the day, you're talking about grief and mourning. People should know where to go and what to do.
Yeah.
That's spot on.
It's 360, a hard conversation.
Yep, that's spot on. Yes, when we come back with life insurance specialist Kimberly Sheffield, as well as AA Ron, Razor, Miss Max, and yours truly, we're gonna dig in to the difference between that the GoFundMe accounts and the insurance and the why, like why you should choose one or the other. And even for those who don't know, talk a little bit about the costs, because I think a lot of people are not aware of how expensive it is to bury loved ones, like minimal, so we're gonna get into that.
Another question that I have, and we'll get back to it, but if you have any advice on if an individual has if an individual has multiple kids, how to divvy that up, when you reach X age, then you have access, or when you complete X, goal or whatever, let's say once you graduate from college, or once you turn 18, or once you're 35, like how does a person, make those type of decisions to have the best outcome? But Charles, you were going to go to break, right?
Yeah. But definitely hold that thought though, so we can get back to it. I am Imho Family. Be right back with Kimberly Sheffield.
Imho Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
MHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that, and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in this city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories, more people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all these things. Still, the way that black people, and I would say, and I would argue, especially black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous, and you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. but this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do the work, critique the work, and make sure that we stay aligned with the vision. Another way that the community can get behind the SIM project is through engagement. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're talking about. We want to put your stories out there. And so whether it's reading the articles written by Charlottesville Tomorrow or Vinegar Hill Magazine, or tuning in to In My Humble Opinion on Sundays on 101.3 Jams from noon to 3 p.m., either way, we want you engaged. We want you to be part of this. The community can also support the SIM project through funding. To learn more about how to support SIM, you can visit our website. Thank you for your support.
Imho Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
We in the booth in the building with insurance specialist Kimberly Sheffield, and appreciate y'all for listening. I mean, because we're trying to put y'all on game like we normally do, Miss Max. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it's not the most entertaining. Sometimes Razor ain't saying nothing crazy. Sometimes we just got to give you the actual factual. But thank y'all for listening. We really hope you appreciate it. Because we appreciate y'all for being here. And so, Kimberly, when we went to break, a question did come in over line where the listener just wanted you to clarify. I think after this week we went into talking about health conditions, but just to make sure that we were clear, the listener asked, "What is meant by being diagnosed with something crazy? Please elaborate clearly."
Something that would make you uninsurable. Some cancers are uninsurable, of course. Back in the day, you couldn't get in life insurance with HIV or AIDS. Nowadays, you can. You're just primarily rated. Something that would make you uninsurable. And unfortunately, there's new diagnoses that come out every day. So when I say crazy, something that would just make you uninsurable.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that's kind of one of those evolution things, right? It's like because of modern medicine and things like that, people live longer with HIV than they did originally. So so kind of would make sense. So yeah, so I guess with everything that people just need to kind of check with their provider to see what they offer and what it looks like. Different for different providers. So.
And my question was along the lines of allocating life insurance funds if you have multiple children and just how you do that. I have three kids who are under the age of 18. One just turned 19. One is I'm telling my age too, and one is 25 and in law school, and just trying to look at their what I expect their life to go like, what kind of trajectory they're on, how I allocate funds for the minors versus how I do it for the adult children, and who may go to college and who may not, and things like that. And so, yeah, that all can get a little confusing.
Yes, indeed.
Try to make the right decision.
Yes, indeed.
So I would say allocation is going to be based off of your preference, who you trust the most, who's going to do right by the money, who's going to take the money and split it up and take care of things. For the adult children, obviously, you probably want to allocate more because they're probably going to be taking care of your funeral and final expenses. But, that's a tricky question because you pass away and then you've got Jane, Jessica, and Johnny. Why did I get 50,000 and you gave her 60,000? So you also got to be mindful of that as well. But I always say, an allocation, you leave the most to the person you trust is going to do right by it.
Okay.
Yes, indeed. So, let's make it uncomfortable again.
Oh boy.
Raise on the
line. So you made a statement about the current amount of GoFundMe accounts for funeral expenses. So break that down to me. Is there, if the money's being paid from a GoFundMe, are funeral homes like changing the price based on that, or clarify? Make sure I understood your statement correctly.
So I think what I sent you was the current amount of GoFundMe accounts that are active for funeral and final expense.
Gotcha. Okay,
and to be fair, Charles, that number, in my opinion, has actually reduced significantly. I think I looked at it a couple of years ago and it was a lot larger. So it's not as bad as it used to be, but 22,000 accounts is still a lot.
Yeah. Hey, Aaron, you were going to chime in?
Yeah, I was also going to say that the GoFundMe accounts tend to go into a larger issue that we don't want to talk about a lot because there's a little shame, but a lot of our families are not in good financial positions when it comes in terms to wealth or having access to liquidity. And that is something that a lot of people don't like to talk about because that's basically where you are financially right now. How many people actually, without an insurance policy, they say most American families, forget about Black people, they say most American families don't have access for $1,000 emergency, let alone somebody passes away and now you got to figure out how to find 15 grand and you don't have a life insurance policy. So I just think that the life insurance and the GoFundMe is a broader, it's highlighting a broader problem within society of people don't have resources. Forget about just everyday living, but now you have a catastrophe that just happens in your life and in your family. And for us, I think I should have clarified this before, but when I make statements and I'm talking about our group, that doesn't mean that another group is doing better or has something more together or things of that nature. What happens in America is that, if America catches a cold, we get a fever just because of our circumstances. So we have to be very aware of how financially susceptible we are to these things happening in our families due to health, racism, all these different things. We have to be very conscious about where we are. And that, I think, Charles, that's the hard part because people don't want to be honest about what has really happened. I mean, full transparency, my homie had the conversation with me because he was like, dude, he's like, you have resources. You don't have a trust set up. You don't have this. And he said, here's the honest conversation that I know you don't want to have. Your parents are getting old and you are going to be the only beneficiary. Do you have any idea what their plans are? So then I had to have that conversation. But the best thing that happened was me talking about it. They went down to the bank. They got their trust done. They did everything. So now it's all out of the way. Everybody knows exactly what's happening. But I'd rather be uncomfortable for 5 minutes.
Right.
Seriously, I'd rather be uncomfortable for 5 minutes than after. I mean, and I want the insurance lady to talk about because I know the sister knows. God forbid somebody dies. But listen, a lot of people die with debt, problems, and issues that you are now responsible for. If anybody on this call ever heard of something called probate and have a property stuck in probate, and you have no idea who that house goes to, Charles, you and I have had conversations about this kind of stuff.
For sure.
So this is real, and not addressing it is doing a disservice to your entire family.
Shoot, I'm going through it right now. My mom and dad left everything in my name except for the house. And I had to prove who I was, that they didn't have any other heirs, because they looked at it like, okay, why would they leave you everything except for your name on the deed?
Right.
And it had to do with the bad relationship I had with my kid's mother. Like, they were from the old school, like, you know, they're going to try to take everything from you type of thing. So at the end of the day, you're left with, okay, a substantial bill, not just getting the thing, because when you can't prove who you are, the bills still keep coming in. So then when you do prove who you are, then you have this lump sum that you have to come up with in order to take over the property. You know, so I mean, I am one of the ones that y'all are speaking of that is going through hell and high water to try to make sure I retain everything that my parents worked so hard to leave. But their old way of thinking also gave me circumstances that I didn't want to have to go through.
Gotcha. And you know what else? Like this is relatable even to the mentoring and volunteering conversation that we just had, because a lot of times it's about like connecting folks to the right resource, and sometimes people don't realize that it's simpler than they may think, they may believe. And I know parts of our conversation today, some of it goes deep, some of it goes into the into the logistics and terminology that people may not be familiar with, but at the same time, I think Kim has been very clear. Like, there's so many alternatives. Like, there's options. You know what I mean? And it's more aware of changing that conversation. You know what I mean? Even again, like when y'all were talking about, if all we talk about is basketball and that's all we glorify, that's probably what the kids are going to be drawn to, right? So it's like, as a people in the community, like, these are the conversations, like that has to start being normal. Like, raised, like, these are the barbershop talks. And shouts out to the barbershops that do have, real constructive talks, But Kim, speaking of that though, what are alternatives to crowdfunding for funeral and final expenses? And for instance, if someone passes and then they may find out that they don't have all the insurance or whatnot, that person may not have had the policy whatnot that they needed. Is crowdfunding still their only option?
Well,
how does that even work? Is it the money going directly to the funeral home?
Wait a minute. I don't think I understood your question. Say that again.
Yeah. So I was wondering about, are there alternatives?
Absolutely.
If someone,
So first and foremost, the best option is always going to be life insurance. And again, there are companies and products out there that will still insure you if you've got pre-existing conditions or if you've got some challenges in your medical history. Obviously, if you can't get life insurance, you can prepay for your funeral, right? If you can't prepay for your funeral, start putting a little bit of money away, $50 a check or $50 a month. And then if you can't do any of that, have a conversation with your next of kin or your loved one and just give them a reminder. I don't have life insurance. I'm not prepared for this. That way, that family member can take action and do something, whether it's paying your premiums, whether it's putting away money for you, because at the end of the day, they're responsible now. If something happens to you without life insurance or without a prepaid funeral, now I'm responsible. So somebody's got to do something. And so it's advantageous for you to let folks know where you're at so that at minimum they can do something, if that makes sense.
Hey, Charles, can I reiterate something that Kim just said that I didn't even think about? If you have an elderly parent, and because I'm a mortgage banker, I talk to people a lot about finances, but Kim just said something really powerful. If you have an elderly parent, you need to ask the question, or have you been paying your life insurance premiums? Like, I know that's really, really simple, but if you found out that somebody was not going to get insurance because they decided to stop, or they ran into a financial emergency and they couldn't pay $75 a month, I think that you, like, logically, Kim, am I missing something? You should be like, oh, mama, daddy, uncle, I got you. But that means that there has to be a level of transparency and intimacy in having those conversations, like, mom, dad, hey, it's rough right now. I'm about to be delinquent. You know what? I'm going to help you take care of that, because forget about just the insurance money. That money could go towards grandchildren, different resources, debt, things of that nature, whatever. Because a lot of times what people don't talk about, and I know Kim has seen this, people die and they say, oh, I died and you left the house. Okay, but you also got 5 liens on this property, or you got different, or you have debts, or you have judgments or things of that nature that sometimes those items can be kind of tricky. So it's just a lot of circumstances that people are not thinking about. But man, talk to your mom or your dad or whoever it is about making sure you're paying your premiums on time. And if you can't pay it and you got the means, I can pay it for you so we can make sure we keep you on track. That's super powerful, Kevin.
Yeah, and something else, Kim, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Don't you have to have your your coverage for, let's say, 6 months, X amount of time for it to pay out the full amount?
It depends on the product, right?
I ran into that though.
So again, it depends on the product. I purchased a life insurance policy today, okay? And I get involved in an accident, a head-on collision, and pass away. The insurance company shouldn't have a reason to contest. You died from an accident. But let's say I purchased this policy today and 2 days later or 2 weeks later, I die from a heart attack. And then they have the ability to contest, or they want to see medical records now, and they see that I've had a heart condition for 10 years that I didn't disclose. They can contest that now. But primarily, if you purchase life insurance and something tragic happens, an accident,
If it's an accident,
they're not going to contest it. But if it's a medical issue where they feel like you hadn't said everything that you were supposed to say in the application process, they can contest it. But normally it's a 2-year contestability phase.
Okay.
Hey, Charles, can I ask Kim a question?
Read them policies, people. Go ahead.
Oh, so Kim, can you, and I know this is probably a long conversation, but can you just go into talking to people or some of our listeners about specifically, if you don't have anything like a basic term policy, like in the power of just having like a basic term policy for some people, because I know a lot of people out there, they see the universal this, and this, but the basics of just having a term policy and how that could help them if you're an advocate for it.
Something's better than nothing.
I'm an advocate for all types of life insurance. I don't care what you have, just have it and at minimum be able to take care of your funeral and final expenses at minimum. That's your responsibility. In the state of Virginia, or most states, you have to have a minimum liability on your auto insurance. I don't understand why it is not mandatory to have some type of life insurance, right? Because we're all going to die, and then it's a burden, it's an expense. So at minimum, have enough insurance to take care of your funeral and final expenses. That's your responsibility.
Yeah.
Then term insurance is always going to be cheaper than permanent insurance. So last time I was on the show, I talked about my Starbucks addiction, and I keep going back to that because we all have our thing. $30 a month, $20 a month, you would be surprised what that can buy you in life insurance and term insurance.
Right.
And it's specified. Life insurance should be personalized. What Charles needs is going to be different than Max.
Right.
Max needs is going to be different than mine. And everybody wants to cover different things. For me, I want to ensure that my daughter's lifestyle doesn't change. I want to ensure that she's got a nest egg for money if I'm not here to help her pay for college. So term insurance, I'm a huge advocate for term insurance because for 30 years, 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, you can buy hundreds of thousands of dollars for cheap. Now, it's important for you to have a relationship with your insurance agent or your insurance company. You should revisit your life insurance at least once a year because things change.
Right.
So one of the things that I tell customers is this. Recently, my sister reached out to me and said, hey, I need to buy a car. Can you co-sign? I'm big sister. Absolutely. I'll co-sign. But with that co-signature, we're going to buy a 10-year term policy for $50,000 because if something happens to you, now I'm left with this car loan. So it's a million different conversations that we don't think about having when it comes to life insurance. It's not just about death. It's not just about dying. It's about the big picture. How many people rely on your income?
Yep.
How did we get so far
big,
behind in this conversation? How do we like not understand the importance of the way that you explained it?
Yeah. I mean, like that's cultural, right? That's cultural. Is it's like that's the wealth divide. Like I feel like a lot of wealthy people understand policies. Like I think, Razor, that we get like that for so long we looked at like wealth building and like money management and stuff like as a white thing or like something that was unattainable. And I think it's just recent decades to where as a people we're seeing the success like in each other. And then once you get that little bit of knowledge, then you be like, man, it's easier than I thought. You know what I mean?
But Charles, like talking about our people in general, we've created so many things that this earth uses. Stoplights, cell phone, you name it. We thirst for knowledge. It's kind of hard for me to believe that there's something that benefits our life in the totality that young lady just explained. And for so many years, we just went blind to it. Because to my understanding, Black insurance sometimes costs more than other nationalities' insurance because we're at risk, we die early. Police department, you know what I'm saying? It's a multitude of different things that take us out.
Yeah. Now, Kim, can you touch on that? Like, because that's true in so many industries, like, and Aaron can maybe say something about it too within his market. But like, do you see like that's a redlining, so to speak, to where you have a Black family or Black person, say white family, white person, and it seems like the rates are like banks are looking at someone's social economic status?
I'm not really privy to underwriting guidelines, and I think on purpose and in purpose I'm not. But I think we all know the answer to that. I'm trying to be politically correct.
You ain't got to do it, Kim. I got you. It definitely happens.
It's hard for us to do anything.
Yeah. Remember, you representing yourself. You ain't representing the brand, so you good.
But I still got to be careful.
Yeah.
Something else that I was thinking about, and these 2 points may not be related, but earlier this year, the city's sheriff department presented a report that said there was some 18 to 24 unclaimed bodies within because they processed that within the city of Charlottesville in the past year.
Oh, wow.
And, of course, your thoughts go to other things that may be the cause for those bodies to have been unclaimed. But wouldn't it be sad if it was because families couldn't afford burial costs?
Extremely sad.
You'll be surprised.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Y'all see what's happening in Mississippi, right? You see they found out that there was a grave behind the prison and families didn't know like that, like someone reported missing, ended up being like when they died, the families weren't notified.
Yeah.
Oh
wow.
It's happening.
It's happening here in Virginia too.
Yeah, on different levels, different places. Yeah. But Kim, before we let you go though, we talked about a lot, but like just touch on the cost though, because I'm sure a lot of people may think, and Razor, I'm curious what you think about. Well, I'll just stash the money. Like I'll just keep my brown paper bag. I'll put it in the mattress or whatnot. But they don't understand the cost that's actually incurred. Can you touch on that? The cost associated with funeral and final expenses, just just on average. So somebody who's never been through this, so they don't get that sticker shock when they see it.
It's expensive to die. It is truly expensive to die. I haven't looked at these numbers recently, but if you look at an invoice from a funeral home, some funeral homes charge $500 just to pick up the body.
Just to pick it up.
Then you look at embalming, what it costs to do that. I know some folks that bypassed embalming and did cremation just to save money. It's expensive. The average funeral can be anywhere from $12,000 to $20,000, depending on your choices. And some burial cemeteries now require vaults and different things. So it's expensive.
I buried my mom and dad. Dad was 13,000. Mom's was like 15,000. And they want their money. You know, if you late on payments, they come after you just like it's a car. I mean, I don't know what they're gonna do besides garnish you, but it's extremely expensive. And part of the problem is when you are like doing your last goodbyes, you want them to have the best casket. You want it to have the best material in front of it. You got the tombstone. You have all these things that these emotions come into play that you know your family can't afford. But you want to at least say that I gave them a good home going.
Right. That's deep. Man, thank y'all for this conversation though. For sure. So Kim, you know, as we let you go, you mentioned something. I want to make sure people can reach out to you if they would, you know, if they want to work with you. And you know, based on the comments and stuff and the viewers online, you know, people have appreciated this conversation. So thank you for joining us. But before you give your, you know, your business contact info, you mentioned TAP. I heard you mention that a couple of times, and you said take action, prepare.
Have those hard conversations. Talk to your family. Talk to your mom, your dad, your brothers, your sisters. That way, if they can't take action, you can take action. You know, I again had GoFundMe's and crowdfunding's been available 20 years ago. I know for a fact we would have had to use it, or we would have chosen that. I want to see our people do better.
Yes.
And really, a lot of times it just comes down to conversations and utilizing the resources. You scroll through Instagram, there's so much content about life insurance. You know, reach out to local folks and get acclimated.
Kim, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we kind of from the same area, so you know where I'm going with this once I start talking. There were a few gentlemen back in the day that used to grab every wino that was out there and put a life insurance policy on them, and then buy them a bottle every day. What you laughing for, Charles? So when it comes to people that say, okay, I want to help this person out, but I'll take care of them now, but I'm going to put a life insurance policy on them so that I benefit later on. Is that still legal?
Troy.
He just asked if it's legal. I just yes or no.
That's all.
When you purchase life insurance on somebody, you are supposed to have insurable interest. Okay. So the example I gave with my sister co-signing for her vehicle, I now have insurable interest to her life because we now have a loan together. That person, you know, I don't know how he did that, or, you know,
You good.
but I will say this, that particular person saved a lot of families' lives.
Absolutely.
Including mine. So I, you know, as crazy as it was, he still took care of them.
Yeah, sure did.
Yeah.
Now we don't know what he benefited from it, but you know, he took care of those folks.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Kim,
what about people that work for you?
What was that?
Like, let's say, for instance, let's go to the business side, because you said you do life insurance, you do business insurance. If my staff, do I have a right to put in life insurance on my staff?
What insurable interest do you have on your staff?
My company can't operate if they are not there, especially if I've invested training and, you know, different things.
Yeah,
they can't be replaced like overnight. Am I allowed to put insurance on them?
it's a gray area there, Troy.
I don't mind.
Now you can have something called key man insurance. So let's say me and you open up a bakery, and you've put in 50%, I put in 50%. I have insurable interest to have life insurance on you. because we co-own that business together. Employees, no.
Okay.
I think as an employer, it's beneficial for you to offer life insurance to your team, just because those are benefits people need. And if you really talk to people, a lot of people rely solely on the life insurance they get through their employer, but they don't think about, if I leave jobs, change jobs, or retire, what happens then? You don't have a policy that you own. So let's say your company decides next open enrollment or next benefit time, they're not going to offer life insurance anymore. Now you've been diagnosed with this, and this, and you're uninsurable because you don't own something on yourself. You relied solely on that policy through your employer.
Does the person have to sign off on it? Like, for me to insure you, do you have to sign off on that? So no matter the relationship, if it's two adults and you're not my
because
dependent,
I have to consent to you.
Right. Okay.
Kim, you kind of confused me. You just used the word uninsurable. But earlier you said do the homework and dig and find one that fits you.
There are policies for folks that have challenges in their medical history.
Okay.
A lot of folks think that because I'm overweight and I have high blood pressure and I'm diabetic and this and this and this, that I'm uninsurable. There are products that will allow you to get some life insurance. It's not going to be huge policies, but there are products out there. Now, there are certain things that are uninsurable.
Like what?
You know, I haven't looked at my underwriting in a while to see what is uninsurable, but there are definitely things that you can't get life insurance being diagnosed with.
And I think people need to understand, just because you're denied by one company, though, there could be another company you should try to get a quote from. Right?
Absolutely.
Right. Okay.
Hey,
Kim,
I had one question before she left.
Okay.
So Kim, have they, obviously I just got a recent insurance policy. Have they introduced vaping into the conversation for a lot of young people? Because obviously, you know, when people get quotes, it's non-tobacco, things of that nature. My brain just said, you know what? Vaping is now becoming a thing, but we don't have enough evidence on the negative impacts it's going to have on people's health in the future. Has that been introduced from what you've seen the underwriting or not yet?
Vaping is considered tobacco use. So if you vape, you're a tobacco user.
Wow. Wow. People
marijuana as well?
You're not uninsurable with tobacco use anymore. I mean, marijuana use anymore. So it would classify you as a tobacco user.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
With some insurance companies. Now, not all insurance companies view things the same, but
right.
It would still consider you a smoker.
Okay. Yeah. Good stuff. Kim, how can the folks reach you?
I'm readily available on social media. You can find me. They can find you. All right.
Good enough. Hey, because we may have drummed up some business for you. You know, hopefully.
Hey, listen, if it doesn't have to be with me, but get it, have the conversation, get it done.
Gotcha. Company name is your name, Kim Sheffield?
Just find me on Facebook, Instagram, Kimberly Sheffield.
Okay. That's right. The one, the only.
The one and only.
And thank you for joining us. Good information, great information, and family. Stay tuned. We're gonna be right back. Since we got AA Ron in the building, he came equipped with the Ass Max. Dun, dun, dun. But yeah, but family, stay tuned. Kim, great seeing you as always. Take care. Be safe.
Thanks for having me.
Daddy, what's a will?
Yeah.
Take those monies and spread across families. My sister Hattie and little nephews, cousins, and TT. Eric, the rest of beef for whatever she wants.
Imho Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 1013 Jams.
Imho Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 1013 Jams.
Muslim, Buddhist, and Christian.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in this city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories. More people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all these things. Still, the way that black people, and I would say, and I would argue, especially black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous, and you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. But this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do the work, critique the work, and make sure that we stay aligned with the vision. Another way that the community can get behind the SIM project is through engagement. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're talking about. We want to put your stories out there. And so whether it's reading the articles written by Charlottesville Tomorrow or Vinegar Hill Magazine, or tuning in to In My Humble Opinion on Sundays on 101.3 Jams from noon to 3 p.m., either way, we want you engaged. We want you to be part of this. The community can also support the SIM project through funding. To learn more about how to support SIM, you can visit our website. Thank you for your support.
In the kitchen, scale, fork, and a pistol. Skirt, skirt, skirt. Yeah, we cooking now. You know the pressure, cause they looking now. They look out for me, but they weren't looking out. Got your together, sucky, sucky now.
Pressure, sucking now. Pressure. Sucky, sucking now. Pressure. Pressure.
Hold on, wait. You're listening to In My Humble Opinion, only on 101.3 Jams. Hold on, wait. You're listening to In My Humble Opinion, only on 101.3 Jams.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Back to close the show in true old school IMHO fashion.
We got everybody up in here today.
It's been a minute. How y'all doing?
It's how you're doing. How you doing?
Yes, indeed. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor, AA Ron. That didn't flow right. Sir Charles,
Yeah.
Miss Max.
AA Ron first, then Razor. That's it. That's how it went.
Get it right, my brother. Gotta
I'm
get it
trying to
right.
figure out how I went like that too, but yeah. Okay.
Oh man. But yeah, appreciate y'all, family. Remember, run it back, man. Today's show, mentoring, volunteering, the quality and value of insurance policies, man. I mean, this was good stuff. And we're gonna close the show out in true IMHO talk show fashion. We full of surprises today. Speaking of the surprises, Aaron, what brings you here? What brings you here today, sir? Why today did you pick to get back on to airways?
Matter of fact,
people want to know.
Why he shuffle around in his chair?
You need a job? You need a job? You got
no job, man. No, you know what? I listened to the show. I always listen, but I listened to the show a few weeks ago, and honestly, I was like, man, I miss hopping on with y'all, man. I said I miss hopping on. It was funny. And I said, me and Max have not had a Black Girl Magic ratchet conversation in like 3 years. And I'm like, we gotta have one. We gotta have one.
All right, Charles, let's step back. I'm anxious to see how this go here.
That can only mean one thing.
One thing.
It's the question.
That's it.
Hey, it's the question.
Okay, Aaron.
Hey, Aaron, the theme music is playing. It's the questions. Now the people want to know.
Miss Max. I need a Miss Max because the fellas, Charles, Razor, and Aaron, this is not our area of expertise, okay?
Okay.
All right. I want to know, Miss Max, why has the Black women delegation allowed this pregnant young woman, Sexy Red, to be walking around twerking, and she never got no shoes on, Max?
Oh man. Oh man.
Max, the girl never got no shoes on, Max.
she missed that mentoring phase that we were talking about earlier in the show. Yeah, she lucked out.
Y'all are wild.
That is funny.
Sexy Red is something else. Is that the real question?
I think so.
That's a real question. I do believe it is. He waited 3 hours.
So you want to go first?
3 hours to ask that question. That got to be the
3 hours, 3 years.
3 years and 3 hours.
In my humble opinion, the sad part about society, the society we're living in this day, is that people idolize and emulate and want to be like stupidity. I mean, our judgment, our discretion is way off, and it's tearing down our society, the quality of our society. And I think that Sexy Red is just something else. Like it's one of those things, and I'm being in full transparency. It's one of those things where, you look at what she represents and how she's acting. You're like, man, that's just dumb. What's wrong with that girl? Somebody go get that girl. Oh, wait a minute. Let me hear a song real quick. Turn it up. What's she doing again? Let me see. We all, it is a little bit of a catch-all. I'm not trying to, place judgment like that. She's going with the time. In a lot of ways, I think that she's going with the times.
Mm-hmm.
She's doing what sells. She's doing what's important to people. She's doing what makes them click and watch and spend and, represent whatever it is that she stands for around this world. She wants to be known. She wants that power. She wants that money. And that's how you get it.
Yeah. Can I interject something there?
Yeah.
Because I want to clarify to people, at least my stance on it is like, I'm one who believes like art is art. It comes in different forms. It can express.
Come on now.
Let me finish.
Mm-hmm.
It can express different stories. It can say some can be entertaining, some can be educational, but it can be art. Here's my issue with it. With Sexy Races. That's the questions. That's the person at hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that I don't see the talent. That's my problem.
That's your problem?
That's my problem. Because let me tell you what.
Wait. Hold on, Max. You don't think
Because let me
Steve
tell
Ying
you
is a
what.
talent?
She can sing a little bit. Like if she really had bars, she'd be all right.
For the art, yes. I'm not saying that it's good nurturing music that you want your kids to listen to, but for the art, yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Let me give you a perfect example.
And that's how low the bar is set now.
Since we up here being all high and holy and mighty,
I'm not.
When we were cheering, we were listening to Adina Howard, Freak Like Me. We were listening to Akinelli, and I ain't even gonna say the name of that song.
You was listening to Akinelli.
We were listening
all that to a whole nother level.
True. But we listen to stuff that the kids listen to now. I get that nowadays media plays stuff on the radio they wouldn't play when we were kids, but we found it. My point is, I feel like that we always had times to where we were like, oh, that's just funny. I'll take it for what it's worth. It's just crazy. It makes me laugh, whatever the case. We didn't put that up there with like the Queen Latifahs and the Lauryn Hills and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like so that was, but my issue with it is that people act like that, that she be spitting, like that she, like, you know what I mean? That's what I take with. I'm like she can do what she do, and it's and like she'll be gone next year, whatever the case is. But my issue with this generation is like they be like, oh, that's better than what you listen to. I'm like, she ain't got skills. That ain't skills.
Yeah, but Charles, we don't have the luxury to sit around and be like, Sexy Red is okay in perspective, right? When we talking about the future of our world, our community of Black people, of Black women, like we don't have the luxury to just let that be okay. Like that. We need to teach kids that that's not how you act, and that's not how you speak, and that's not how you dress, and that's not who you idolize. Yeah, go ahead.
I agree.
All right, I agree with all three of y'all, right? But what I do understand is because of social media, there were more Sexy Reds walking around on this earth than there were Queen Latifahs and Alicia Keys, right? So now I have somebody who's out here doing it that it doesn't take much for me to be a Sexy Red. God didn't give me, and I'm not judging the young lady, but God didn't give me the Queen Latifah, the the talent of the ones that we want.
And them Sexy Red emulators is out there raising your grandkids.
And they are your grandkids.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But this is what I'm saying though. In our society, especially since we started indoctrinating other nationalities in America, that it's easier for me to become a Sexy Red than it is for me to become a high-functioning African-American female and compete against Afghanistan and Chinese. And, now you got white people saying that other white people created the fade haircut, and like everything has always been taken from us. So for a minute, while she's hot, I'm hot. I look like her. I don't have no body. I got sores on my lips. I got, you know what I'm saying? I got fake hair. I got short. I can talk about them. I want to sleep with somebody, baby daddy. You know what I'm saying? I can do all that because that is my reality. So I can easily become what the star is right now. But you telling me I got
money.
Well, that's the thing. Social media made it to where you can look like a person. You can go to the bootleg places and put on the fake clothes and look like that person at least for a minute, long enough for me to catch somebody's attention. Because the dudes are doing the exact same thing. They're wearing their whole economic status on their body. You know what I'm saying? Like they got $2,000 phones and buying the $1.25 stuff to feed themselves off.
Yeah.
Hey, Tom, I just
and Aaron, we up against the hour. Did
Oh,
you?
my bad.
No, you good? Did you want to answer as well, or you just putting the
no.
question?
I just wanted to add.
You got to answer.
So I think
you
the
had a
issue.
question because you had to answer.
Yeah, I don't even. It's not the fact that it's an issue, but I always go to shout out to my baby because my baby she says this all the time whenever I attempt to get on my high and mighty or anything of that nature, and she says, "Aaron, strip clubs don't have windows for a reason." And it's because at some point, things are supposed to be for the brain to imagine. And we all agreed, like, sexy reds, like let's be clear, porn, and I know that's a bad word, but porn, Black people are not the leading consumers of porn in this country. It is people classified as white. Let's be very, very clear. But we don't have the most popular porn star or woman that does porn like in her music. She's not running around with no shoes on, twerking on the VMAs or on BET, or you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
She's not doing that. But it's not that these women don't exist. So I think it's just like Max was saying, like back in the day, it was very hard to find the content. Now, literally, as a young person, if you pick up a phone, you will see sexual content in 30 seconds immediately. It's just so much ease of access to it. So I'm not going to act like it doesn't exist. Yeah. I'm just like, why is there so much of her? Why is she constantly being promoted and pushed down my throat constantly? Yeah. And I don't see her white, Asian equivalent. I don't see who is the white sexy red. What's her name?
If that's your barometer, I can keep your people at a low level.
Right.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. And
you have to think
out
about who's pulling the strings behind that, because she's being pushed down your throat because her promoters and her agent and her this and that want to keep God in their pockets too.
Yeah. And let me also point out that this conversation goes for the men too, because I know there's somebody out there thinking like, why y'all make?
Yeah. We got dusty Negroes everywhere.
Yeah. You know,
Little Nas X.
Yeah.
Comes to mind.
Talk about it. But
wait, y'all. Can we establish that from the moment that Little Nas X has come out, Razor has not liked this brother?
Because he tricked me. I thought we had somebody that was doing some stuff. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, they got hit the mouth there, but that's the end of the show.
That got to be the end of the show. We got to make way for something sophisticated like Clee Logan. I don't know what spirits Aaron bringing back up in here.
Man, whatever.
Hey, but Mac, you want to take us home? You know,
it's really
quick.
Not
this was an
ad.
Since Sexy Red, is the downfall of our people. In your opinion, you got to bring us back to glory when you close this show.
Contributing factor.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Thank y'all for listening. Thank you for tuning in.
You go.
What's up, man? Talk to me.
It's WVAI.
Hey, Charles, I'm getting out. That was a great show, man.